This week in Jamaica Now, COVID cases mounting, deaths jumping. The health ministry is looking to establish field hospitals to care for the sick. Vote buying, magisterial recounts, and breaking a tie, the aftermath of the general election. Prime Minister Andrew Holness takes the oath of office again and issues a warning to incoming ministers.
No princes or princesses were elected. You have no divine right or entitlement. We are all servants of the public.
Journalist Mark Wignall shot in drive-by incident. St. Andrew lawyer charged for forging a will to get a client's property. And Jamaican man convicted for raping and killing a 9-year-old girl sentenced to death in Florida. I'm Damian Mitchell and this is Jamaica Now. COVID cases are mounting drastically in Jamaica. In just 2 weeks, there have been more than 1,000 new cases and deaths have almost doubled. It's the result of what health authorities call a community spread. On Monday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced new measures to contain the spread of the virus. Curfew hours have now been changed to 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. daily. Public gatherings are limited to 15 persons. Persons 70 years and over should now stay home, and funerals have been prohibited, while burials will now be limited to 15 people.
Until we get a viable vaccine, which is at least a year and a half away, this outbreak has to be managed by the collective will of the people through the responsible exercise of our individual choice and by these actions that the government will take in restricting unnecessary movement.
Meanwhile, the Health Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton, says in another 2 weeks the first of 3 field hospitals will be constructed as the COVID cases continue to climb.
We're now building out the base for that facility. It will be located in the corporate area, and that field hospital will allow for an additional 80 plus or so beds. So that is in train as we speak in collaboration with a bilateral partner. We will have an appropriate, unveiling of it and all that in another few weeks. There's another that is being pursued, which will be a similar field hospital that would be placed in the center of the island, on the south coast, actually. Yeah, and then there is a third that will be constructed in the west.
Jamaica's political ombudsman, Donna Parchment Brown, is urging people with information of vote buying to come forward. Under the law, it is a crime to pay for votes. There has been the claim of vote buying in parts of Kingston, St. Ann Northwestern, and Portland. In the meantime, magisterial recounts are now underway in several constituencies. Among them, Clarendon Northwestern, where the PNP's Richard Azan lost by 83 votes to the JLP's Philip Henriquez. There were some 1,107 rejected ballots in that constituency. In Westmoreland Eastern, a recount is also underway. The PNP's Luther Buchanan was declared the winner after the final count when the returning officer cast a deciding vote to break a tie. Buchanan has also alleged that 2 men voted under the same name in one polling division. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has been sworn in for the 3rd time as Prime Minister of Jamaica. Speaking during his swearing-in ceremony at King's House, the Prime Minister promised a government built on integrity.
We commit to make this government the highest in integrity, dignity, and efficiency. There is no honeymoon period for this government. Already I am back at my desk to continue our recovery plan.
The Prime Minister has also named a 19-member cabinet. It sees the return of several people. However, Mike Henry is absent. The Prime Minister has also named 9 state ministers. Marlene Malahoo Fort remains as Attorney General. There were anxious moments in Jamaica this week as news spread that Gleaner columnist and talk show host Mark Wignall had been shot. Wignell had parked along Red Hills Road in St. Andrew when men opened fire in a drive-by shooting. He was hit in the arm. 2 other men were also wounded. Wignell reportedly drove himself and the injured men to hospital, where they were treated and released. 64-year-old attorney-at-law Calvin Rose has been charged with fraud-related offenses after a year-long probe into allegations that he forged the will to obtain a personal benefit. The police say Rose, who is from Irishtown in St. Andrew, has been charged with forgery and uttering forged documents. According to the police, in May 2019, investigators started a probe after a complaint that in 2018, Rose forged a will and submitted it for probating at the Supreme Court building. The police say properties were transferred to Rose on the basis of the will. However, the signatures of the deceased and the witnesses were allegedly forged. Rose is to appear before the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court on Tuesday, October 16. A Jamaican man living in Florida has been sentenced to death for raping and killing a 9-year-old girl. Last year, Granville Ritchie was found guilty of first-degree murder, sexual battery, and aggravated child abuse. Ritchie's attorney, Bjorn Brunvand, had argued that the Jamaican's abusive and violent childhood in Kingston, Jamaica, and a lack of prior criminal history should prevent him from being put to death. In May 2014, the 41-year-old man was dating Ebony Wiley, the neighbor of 9-year-old Felicia Williams. Ritchie and Wiley were watching the girl one day and took her to his mother's apartment. Ritchie sexually assaulted and strangled the girl while Wiley was buying marijuana. Ritchie then hid the girl's body in a suitcase and later dumped her from a causeway into Tampa Bay. Wiley testified that Ritchie told her he gave Felicia money to buy candy at a nearby store, but she never returned. Wiley had initially told police that the girl ran away but changed her story after Felicia's body was found. Wiley was charged with lying during a missing person investigation and is scheduled to face trial next month. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. You may follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. Like this video on our YouTube page, turn on your notifications and subscribe today. I'm Damian Mitchell, and before we go, more from the swearing-in ceremony of Prime Minister Andrew Holness.
I have indicated to the Executive Director of the Integrity Commission that each elected representative and each appointed minister will participate in the sensitization and public education programs to be established by the Integrity Commission. This to increase their awareness and understanding of the anti-corruption legislative framework, not just to sensitize them alone, but to ensure that they are seized of their duties under the law and understand that this will be an accountable government. We will bring into operation the Fiscal Council, and we will also operationalize the independence of the Bank of Jamaica. We will improve the business climate and invest to improve competitiveness by reforming customs, developing a national business portal, and increase technology and business process engineering for greater efficiency in the public sector. Water is life. I am determined to solve this water problem. On the production side of the problem, we have developed a plan to bring approximately 100 million gallons of water per day into the system, involving pumped hydro storage and desalinization to cover Clarendon, Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, particularly the hilly sections, and parts of St. Thomas. This will solve once and for all our water shortage problems in our utility areas on the southern side of the island and increase the resilience of our country.